Hello children, welcome to today's English class. I hope you all are safe, healthy and happy at home. Children, in the previous classes, we had learnt the remaining lessons of your supplementary text and we have completed all the chapters of the supplementary text. I hope you might be reading all these lessons at home regularly and trying to understand these stories and their concepts and values hidden in them. Today we will be learning chapter 9 of your prose text. Chapter 8, mid-bill, the author is not there for you in your syllabus for this year. It has been deleted and so we will be doing chapter 9 and it is a story from the south and that is why the name also sounds so, and it is a story of an 8-year-old girl who is very brave and who has a desire to travel by bus, and she also possesses the courage to fulfill her desire. So let's see how she does that. Okay, so it's the story Madam Rides the Bus by Valli Kannan. So the character of the story is Valli Ammai. As I told you, the story is from the south of India. So the writer is Valli Kannan and the character is Valli Ammai, who is 8 years old and she was very brave, and she was from a small village and her pastime was to stand at her door and watch different things every day, and especially she loved watching the bus travel from her village to the town and again back from the town to her village. And she was very excited to see people boarding the bus and getting down from the bus. And she was really anxious to know all about the bus journey as she had the desire to travel by bus. So let's see what preparations she does, in order to fulfill her desire. As I told you, she had the courage to, fulfill her desire. So what is the meticulous preparation done by her? So the first thing she does is, she had conversations with people and her neighbors, okay, who had travelled in that particular bus and her neighbors. So now what is the conversation she had and what was the thing she had found out? That is, it took 45 minutes, okay, to travel to the town. And so she had planned that if she leaves her village by 1 p.m., she would be back by 1:45 p.m. Okay. And then children, what are the other preparations that Valli did? In short, people called her Valli. So instead of Valli Ammai, we will call her Valli. So Valli, she also saved money for the travel. Now, how did she save money? Children get pocket money to buy sweets and toys and balloons. So the money which she had to buy peppermints, toys and balloons, she had saved that money. Because she had a strong desire to travel by bus, so she had to sacrifice. It was very difficult for her to resist her temptation. Children love toys and sweets, so she had sacrificed her desire and controlled her temptation. And she knew that she also had collected information that the fare one way was 30 paise. Okay. So she needed 60 paise to go to the town and to come back. So she had saved that amount, okay. And also, you can say she was courageous enough, okay. So she had mustered the courage also to travel alone. So children, she had spoken to so many people, had conversations with people and her neighbors who had traveled, or people who used to travel every day by that bus, and she gathered lot of information. Children, here we need to remember that Valli was only 8 years old, and she had gathered all these informations that it took 45 minutes, and also the fare 30 paise, and she had saved 60 paise also, just to go to the town and come back. Okay. So now let's read the story. Try to understand this particular character, Valli, who was 8 years old, and how did she fulfill her desire of traveling by bus from her village to the town without the support of the elders. She traveled all alone. And not only is the question of traveling alone, but the preparations which she had made and the money she had saved with lot of sacrifice. So let's move on to the lesson. Children, if you have your textbook, you can see page 116, or you can look at your screen also, and please try to look at your screen or your text very carefully as we try to understand the story. Madam Rides the Bus by Valli Kannan. Children, the story is in 4 different parts. So today we will be doing the first and second part. So the first part, there was a girl named Valli Ammai who was called Valli for short. She was 8 years old and very curious about things. Her favorite pastime was standing in front of her doorway and watching what was happening in the street outside. There were no playmates of her own age on her street, and this was about all she had to do. But for Valli, standing at the front door was every bit as enjoyable as any of the elaborate games other children played. Watching the street gave her many new, unusual experiences. So as I told you, she loved standing at her door and watching the street outside, what is happening there, and also she did not have any friends, no playmates, she was all alone, so she did not have anything else to do, and she loved doing that. It is not that it was boring for her, she loved standing at the door and watching what was happening out in the street, and she enjoyed doing that. And when she stood at her door and saw what happened in the street, it was an unusual experience for her. She learnt a lot by doing so. So the most fascinating thing of all was that the bus that travelled between her village and the nearest town. It passed through her street each hour, once going to the town and once coming back. The sight of the bus filled each time with a new set of passengers, and that was a source of unending joy for Valli. She loved watching the bus that travelled from her village to the town every hour, after every 1 hour, because it took nearly 45 minutes, from her village to the town. So nearly after 1 hour, frequently the bus traveled from her village to the town, and every time she saw some new passengers traveling in that bus, and that was something very fascinating for her, and it gave her joy to watch new passengers boarding the bus every time, and the bus going to the town and again coming back from the town. So the passengers boarding the bus and again the passengers getting down the bus. This sight, really gave her joy. Now, day after day, she watched the bus, and gradually a tiny wish crept into her head and grew there. She wanted to ride on that bus, even if just once. So this wish became stronger and stronger until it was an overwhelming desire. Valli would stare wistfully at the people who got on or off the bus when it stopped at the street corner. Their faces would kindle in her longings, dreams and hopes. If one of her friends happened to ride the bus and try to describe the sights of the town to her, Valli would be too jealous to listen and would shout in English, proud, proud. Okay, though they did not know the meaning of proud because she was hardly 8 years old. So every day she used to stand at her door and watch the bus and the passengers traveling in the bus. And suddenly what happened? One fine day, there crept in her head a strong desire to travel. Now every day, when she watched people traveling by that bus, there was a strong desire in her also to travel by that bus. So this wish became stronger and stronger, and it turned into an overwhelming desire. So Valli would stare wistfully. Children, here wistfully means longingly. Longingly means, to have a strong desire, So she used to travel as if she also longed to travel. She had a strong desire to travel. So she would look wistfully at people, and then, their faces would kindle in her. That means, kindle means it would create, the strong desire in her also. Okay. So kindle the desire to travel by that bus. And, suppose sometimes if one of her friends also would travel by that bus, and, her friends after traveling would come and share their experiences of the town. They would describe to her. So she just used to shout, proud, proud. Though she or her friends did not know the meaning of proud. So let's see what happens next. Over many days and months, Valli listened carefully to conversations between her neighbors and people who regularly used the bus, and she also asked a few discreet questions here and there. Here discreet means careful questions. An 8-year-old child asking careful questions about the bus journey. Okay, and this way she picked up various small details about the bus journey. And the town was 6 miles from her village, and the fare was 30 paise one way, which almost nothing at all, she heard one well-dressed man say. But to Valli, who scarcely saw that much money from one month to the next, the money seemed a fortune. The trip to the town took 45 minutes. On reaching town, if she stayed in her seat and paid another 30 paise, she could return home on the same bus. This meant that she could take the 1 o'clock afternoon bus, reach the town at 1:45 and then be back home by 1:45, right? So, now as we had discussed in the introduction, okay, that the preparations Valli did for traveling in that particular bus, okay, very meticulous preparation and well planned journey. She saved the money, she got all information, she collected even the small details that the town was 6 miles, and if she started by 1 o'clock and traveled, and then even if she does not get down from the bus and she sat in the bus itself, and again she pays 30 paise and returned back by the same bus, she would be back within 45 minutes. So by 1:45 she would be back. Okay. And let's see what happens next. So now that was part 1, children, and now part 2. This chapter has been divided into 4 different parts. So the first part was about her desire, her pastime first, what did she love to do, okay, and what was her desire, and then what was the planning done by Valli to undertake that bus journey. Okay, so the first part was all about this. So you can give the heading to this part as Valli's pastime and her dream, or Valli's desire, okay, or you can even say Valli's desire and her planning. So any heading you can give to each part, or I have told you, even when you read the text, you can give small subheadings to each of your para, so that it helps you to understand what that particular para was about. So when you divide or write down the headings, it makes learning simpler for you, and you can comprehend the story in a better way. So now let's move on to part 2 and see how does she undertake her journey. Well, one fine spring day, the afternoon bus was just on the point of leaving the village and turning into the main highway when a small voice was heard shouting, "Stop the bus! Stop the bus!" and a tiny hand was raised commandingly. The bus slowed down to a crawl, and the conductor, sticking his head out of the door, said, "Hurry then, tell whoever it is to come quickly." "It's me," shouted Valli. "I'm the one who has to get on." By now the bus had come to a stop, and the conductor said, "Oh really? You don't say so." "Yes, I simply have to go to town," said Valli, still standing outside the bus. "And here's my money." She showed him some coins. Okay, but first you must get on the bus," said the conductor. And she got into the bus. Now, one fine spring day, she decided to travel by the afternoon bus. And the time when the bus was about to leave, and the bus just, turned into the main highway, the conductor could hear a voice shouting, "Stop the bus." So when the conductor peeped out of the window and saw, and as you might have watched here also, whenever you have traveled by bus, the conductors just don't look at the people who travel. They'll say, "Come on, quickly get down into the bus, be quick," because they are always in a hurry, that the bus has to leave on time and reach on time. So here also the conductor asked, "Okay, come on, whoever it is, just enter into the bus." But he could hear a small girl saying, "I'm the one who has to travel, and I want to travel by this bus." And she also handed the money, 30 paise, to the conductor. "Now here is your money, and please let me in." And the conductor was surprised to see an 8-year-old girl wanted to travel alone, and also handing over the money to the conductor. So this was something very surprising for him. But still he said, "Okay, come on, get into the bus. First you need to get into the bus, okay? And then we'll talk about the ticket." So the conductor was a jolly sort, fond of joking. He was a jolly person. And, "Oh, please don't be angry with me, my fine madam," he said. "Here, have a seat right up there in front. Everybody move aside, please. Make way for madam." It was the slack time of day, and there were only 6 or 7 passengers on the bus. They were all looking at Valli and laughing with the conductor. Valli was overcome with shyness. Avoiding everyone's eyes, she walked quickly to an empty seat and sat down. "May we start now, madam?" the conductor asked, smiling, and then blew the whistle and the bus started. As we can see in the para that the conductor was a jolly person, and he was not very rude, okay, or strict. Instead, he spoke very lovingly, and since Valli was only 8 years old and she behaved in a matured way, okay, she behaved like an elderly person. The moment the conductor saw her, even before boarding the bus, she started telling the conductor that this is your money. Okay, so the conductor also jokingly called her madam, and also when he saw that she was so matured at this age, he addressed her as madam, and she spoke in a very respectful manner, and she said, please don't be angry with me, madam. And he said, here is your seat. And then he also asked her that, okay, maybe start now. And it was the slack time. Slack time here means the time when people did not have any work, and this time there were only very few passengers in the bus. And so the journey of Valli to the town began. It was a new bus. Its outside painted a gleaming white with some green stripes along the sides. Inside, the overhead bars shone like silver. Directly in front of Valli, above the windshield, there was a beautiful clock. The seats were soft and luxurious. Valli devoured everything with her eyes, but when she started to look outside, she found her view cut off by a canvas blind that covered the lower part of her window. So she stood up on the seat and peered over the blind. So the bus was new, painted, and it was gleaming white, also with some green stripes, and went and sat on her seat. And there was a windshield you might have seen in the bus, and whenever it rains, you just put down that windshield, and whenever it is not raining and the weather is good, you just put the windshield up so that you can look out and enjoy your journey. So here Valli was very excited. It was the first time she was traveling by bus, and she was very excited to look outside and enjoy her journey. So enjoy the beautiful sight. So the seats were very soft and luxurious, and she devoured everything with her eyes. Devoured here means children, to do something very quickly and very fast. We say devour. Whenever you are too hungry, you say you devour the food. That means you ate very quickly. Okay. So, she wanted to see everything. She wanted to quickly look at everything and enjoy everything, because she was just going and coming back by the same bus. So she wanted to make best use of the time she was on the bus. So what did she do? She just stood up on her seat, okay, and because she was too small, so it was difficult for her to put up the window shield. So she tried to stand up and have a look outside, okay. So she wanted to see the beautiful scene outside the bus. And now the bus was going along the bank of a canal. The road was very narrow. On one side there was a canal, and beyond it palm trees, grassland, distant mountains, and the blue sky. On the other side was a deep ditch, and then acres and acres of green field, green and green as far as the eye could see. Oh, it was all so wonderful. Suddenly, she was startled by a voice. "Listen, child," said the voice. "You shouldn't stand like that. Sit down." Okay, now the bus was going through the bank of a canal, and then the road was narrow, but on one side there was a canal, and beyond it there were palm trees, grassland, and mountains, and the blue sky, and greenery everywhere. She could see the green fields and greenery as far as she could see from the window. and she was enjoying the greenery and the natural beauty. Suddenly, she heard somebody calling her and saying, that you shouldn't stand like that, so please sit down. Sitting down, she looked to see who had spoken. It was an elderly man who had honestly been concerned for her, but she was annoyed by his attention. There's nobody here who is a child. There's nobody here who is a child, she said haughtily. Haughtily here means proudly. I have paid my 30 paise like everyone else. The conductor chimed in. Chimed in here means he made ringing sounds to indicate the time. Oh sir, but this is a very grown-up madam. Do you think a mere girl could pay her own fare and travel to the city all alone? Wali shot an angry glance at the conductor and said, I am not a madam. Please remember that. And you have not yet given me my ticket. I'll remember, the conductor said, mimicking her tone. Everyone laughed, and gradually Wali too joined in the laughter. The conductor punched a ticket and they moved on. Okay, so here, she tried to see who was, asking her to sit down. Who was the person who had spoken? So she saw it was an elderly man who was really honest and who was concerned about this girl, because he saw that she is a small child of 8 years. So he was really concerned about her. But as we had seen that Wali behaved in a matured way, though she was 8 years old, we saw that, the preparation she had done, the information she had gathered, and the way she prepared for her travel, and the courage she had to travel alone by saving the money. So she did not consider herself a small girl. So whenever people called her a child, she got annoyed and she said, nobody is a child here. And therefore the conductor also again, jokingly said, oh, she's a grown-up madam, she's not a child, otherwise who could pay the money and travel alone without anybody else or without elderly support. That's why he said, oh, she's a madam, really, because she is traveling all alone and she has paid the money for her travel too. So the moment, the conductor called her madam again and again, so Wali became very angry and she said, I am not madam, please remember. And she also said that you have not yet given me my ticket. And so the conductor said, okay, I'll remember that. And he also tried to mimic her voice. Okay. And since the conductor was calling her madam and he was speaking so respectfully to her, the other passengers laughed, and also the conductor gave her her ticket and the bus moved on. But if you stand on the seat, you may fall and hurt yourself when the bus makes a sharp turn or hits a bump. That's why we want you to sit down, child. I'm not a child, I tell you, she said irritably. I'm 8 years old. Of course. How stupid of me, 8 years. My. The bus stopped. Some new passengers got on and the conductor got busy for a time. Afraid of losing her seat, Wali finally sat down. An elderly woman came and sat beside her. Are you all alone, dear? She asked Wali as the bus started again. Wali found the woman absolutely repulsive. Repulsive here means, irritating or causing a strong dislike. Okay. She did not like this woman. Now why? Wali found the woman absolutely repulsive. Such big holes she had in her earlobes and such ugly earrings in them. And she could smell the betel nut the woman was chewing and see the betel juice, that was coming out of her mouth. Why she did not like this woman, elderly woman who came and sat beside her? She had big earrings. You might have seen people in the south, old women in the south, they do have very big holes in their ears, okay, and they wear too big earrings. You know, sometimes you will feel that how do they bear the weight of such big earrings. And also she was chewing betel nut, pan as you call in the local language, okay. So she was chewing that, and the juice was also coming out of her mouth. So this girl did not like this particular lady because of this, okay. Yes, I'm traveling alone, she answered curtly, okay. And I have got a ticket too. Yes, she's on her way to town, said the conductor, with a 30 paise ticket. Oh, why don't you mind your own business, said Valli. But she laughed all the same, and the conductor laughed too. But the old woman went on with her dribble. Is it proper for such a young person to travel alone? Do you know exactly where you are going in town? What's the street? What's the house number? You needn't bother about me. I can take care of myself, Valli said, turning to the old woman. You know, now this old woman tried to, you know, be very loving and caring towards this child, because she saw that she's all alone and she's hardly 8 years old. You know, those days people did not allow small children to travel alone. Though these days we have people allowing their children to be independent, you know, right from early childhood. Even we can see these days small children traveling alone, even in flights, okay. So this woman was really irritating for this girl, okay. So she asked, are you traveling alone, and do you know where you need to go, and you know, what is the house number? All these questions really irritated Valli, and she said, I can take care of myself, okay. Even the conductor interrupted in between and said that, oh, she's you know, all alone on her way to town, and she has also paid the 30 paise for the ticket, okay. And she also you know, asked the conductor to mind his own business. So children, the way Valli spoke to the conductor and all the other passengers there in a matured way shows that she was really an you know, independent child. You know, she really wanted to be independent, and she did not like being called a child. So here we come to the end of part 2, children. Valli's journey and the beautiful scene she was enjoying through the window of the bus, and the way the conductor was calling her madam and behaving with her with respect, and also the old woman who came and sat beside her, and why Valli did not like this particular woman. So children, I would request you to read the lesson very carefully, the first and the second part. In the next class, we'll continue with the third and fourth part. And if you read the lesson carefully and come prepared, also look at the word meanings and try to comprehend, so that it becomes easy for you to understand the remaining parts of the story. So happy reading, take care of yourself, stay safe and stay at home.